Well, good afternoon, everyone, and it's a real honor for me to be here to address you today and to welcome you to, for those who are not from this area, to the North Island. This is my home. This is where I grew up. This is where the place that I love, and so I'm really happy to be home for the summer from a grueling few months in Parliament, and I just want to talk about one of the things that happened there in the course of my speech today. And I prepared some notes because I want to make sure that I get this right. It's a little bit technical, but basically immigrants are what built this country. Immigrants are the people who came here, who worked in the mines in Cumberland and on the north end of the island and across this country, and built this country because they had a dream. They had a dream of building a better world. And some of those people that came here had to pay a head tax, something that was apologized for many years later, and something that was a real hardship for them at the time, and that was the Chinese immigrants that came to this country and worked in the mines here in Cumberland as well. Many of those immigrants died building that dream, and many of them are here at Miners Row, and that's who we are honoring and remembering today when we lay our wreaths here on Miners Row. Those immigrants, those miners, they were considered a cheap source of labor for the union, for the mine owners, and they were exploited and they were seen as disposable. And that's why there are so many deaths in those days. Safety was not something that was given to them freely. It was something that they had to fight for. And so in building that better dream, those are the conditions that they worked under, fighting all the time for better pay, for safer working conditions, and for a better life. And we mourn their passing, and we also, as we come together here, we are working to build on that dream and organizing and advocating for change. And we've had successes, and we know that. But unfortunately, we're losing some of those hard-fought gains that we won over many, many years and over many, many struggles. And union workers are recognizing that, and it was commented on in the speeches up at Ginger Goodman's grave. And we're losing ground because of the ideologies of our government, who are making matters worse for immigrants and new potential Canadians to this country, not better. And the part that I want to talk about is the change to the Immigration Act that was buried in a Budget Implementation Act in Parliament this spring. Something that we fought against, and unfortunately it passed. But this is what it means for workers in this country, new people who are coming to this country who may never be Canadians, who may never get the chance to come and live here full time. Harper says that they're welcoming record numbers of newcomers to Canada. Well, the reality is that there's a significant shift in the type of newcomer being permitted to come to Canada. The number of permanently landed immigrants to Canada dropped by over 10,000 people. Meanwhile, the temporary foreign workers coming into this country is on the rise. Between 2003 and 2006, over 24,000 more migrant workers entered Canada. And as a matter of fact, Alberta has had the more temporary foreign workers arriving than permanent residents. The Conservatives say that there will be no discrimination, as the Charter of Rights and Freedoms will be respected. But the reality is, the Charter does not help potential immigrants coming to Canada if the Minister's instructions are to fast-track temporary foreign worker applicants over and above, say, parents coming to be with their children, parents coming from India. The Charter cannot prevent the Minister from expediting the foreign workers over family reunification. Furthermore, the Charter does not protect migrant workers, and this is why advocacy groups across the country are calling on the federal government to ratify the UN Convention on the Rights of Migrant Workers and their Families. They say that reforms will give flexibility to visa officers to bring in skilled workers to meet Canada's labour needs. But the reality is, employers claim labour shortages of both high-skilled and low-skilled workers, and much of this perceived labour shortage is occurring in the lower skills sector. Under the existing point system, low-skilled workers will never have enough points to stay in Canada as permanent residents and will never qualify as citizens or be able to bring their families to Canada. If the government wants to bring these workers to Canada permanently, it should change the requirements under the Immigration Refugee Protection Act rather than rushing in these potential immigrants as temporary, cheap labourers. Harper's Conservatives also say bringing newcomers to Canada through the Temporary Foreign Worker Program is beneficial for immigrants and good for the Canadian economy. How many of you believe that? The reality is, by expanding the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, which now covers everything from low-skilled to high-skilled sectors, the government is allowing employers to drive down wages and working conditions for all workers in Canada. In this process, migrant workers are being stripped of their humanity and rights as immigrants and converted into cheap and exploitable economic units. With the threat of deportation hanging over their heads, migrant workers are coerced to work for lower wages under hazardous working conditions that other Canadians are unwilling to accept. And that it's also illegal in Canada to charge workers for jobs. It's also illegal in other countries, but we know it's happening. We know that there are brokers out there charging exorbitant fees for recruiting workers. These are called recruitment fees, and there's no guarantee of work when the workers arrive here. And when they sometimes get into jobs and they're fired not long after, and they have no way of getting back home and no way of paying those exorbitant fees back, and their families back home are forced to pay those fees. And so these things that are forced on people who are in desperate need of jobs is not making life any easier for them. Again, the Temporary Foreign Worker Program is seen as a cheap, disposable workforce for the oil patch, for the construction trades, for healthcare, and for many other jobs in this country. But friends, I just want to say that these workers that are coming here, they're looking for a better life. They have a dream, and their dream is the same as our dream. It's the same as the dreams of these workers who came to this country many, many years ago to build a better world, to build a better life, and to build a better economic future for their families. Their fight to build that better world is our fight, and we need to keep taking that fight on by coming together, remembering what happened in the past, and fighting for the future for all these workers. Because we want to make sure that we are inviting workers not as temporary cheap sources of labor for the oil patch or other places, but as permanent Canadian citizens who can build this country and grow with us. So people, don't mourn, organize, fight for change. Thank you.